the drama. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Film Talk. My name's Brock, and today we're talking about the drama and whether or not its amazing premise can actually carry this film. Spoilers for the whole movie. Okay, so A24's latest art house film known as The Drama came out in April of this year. It's directed by Christopher Borgli, and it stars Robert Pattinson and Zendaya.
That's some drama.
Now, this movie isn't your typical movie-going experience. It's much smaller in scale, it's grounded, it's interpersonal, and you don't typically see those types of movies getting made. It doesn't overly rely on a gimmick or a genre. Even for A24, it doesn't lean into their typical, bizarre imagery or horror-coded aesthetic. And at first I thought it was going to be similar to other A24 movies because they all kind of start in the same way, like a little bit mundane, and then progressively things, get more into the bizarre and the horrific. But they don't ever fully go into the psychological torment side as they could have with some of Robert Pattinson's characters' mental breakdowns or anxiety attacks. They kind of leaned into the weirdness with some of the editing choices and the hallucinations being just something to play around with visually. So yeah, I like that it didn't engage with kind of the traditional gimmicks that we're used to seeing. This is the type of movie that many people say doesn't sell anymore just due to consumers' expectations for the box office. And it seems rare that studios are willing to take a chance to make a movie like this. Now, of course, the reason you get to make something like this is because, it's starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. You got two, A-list celebrities here. And this thing still cost $28 million to make. So it's just not like a cheap movie. But I'd like to suggest that another major reason that this movie actually was greenlit is because it has such an intriguing premise.
It's very serious.
So what is premise? And what is the premise of this movie? I want to be very specific here so you can track with me. So the premise is kind of like the situation or the what if scenario that the plot emerges from. So the premise in this movie, if we're looking at it as the what if scenario, is what if the person you loved did something horrible in their past, or I guess more specifically, was about to do something horrible in their past? Would you still love them the same, right? That's sort of the central premise of this film. And then of course we get hyper specific because it's not just what if they did something bad, it's what if they were almost a school shooter, that's tough. So a premise can exist without a story, right? If that just is by itself, it's not a story, it's just a premise. So what if, what would happen, right? Nothing's happened yet, it's just what would happen. And then the story or the narrative happens when the characters that we've chosen to look at, who are in this, what if scenario, make choices due to said scenario, which that is called the plot, the things that they do. So that's what I mean when I say the plot flows from the premise. They're different. So premise, plot, different.
You said he was slow.
So this film stays very close to its premise. It doesn't depart very far from it. We spend the entirety of the film questioning the premise. And that's fine. That's not a good or a bad thing. That's just true. Many films do this. For example, there's the movie Groundhog Day. Spoilers for Groundhog Day if you haven't seen it. And that one is what would happen to a person if they had to relive the same day over and over and over. And that's the whole movie, right? Versus, say, something like the movie Avatar. Spoilers for Avatar. You could maybe say that the premise is what if humans could put their consciousness into an alien body and infiltrate an alien planet? That movie doesn't sit with its premise as long as the other two films, because by the time we get, midway to the movie, climax of the movie, it then shifts to just more so follow Jake's experience on this planet and how he's falling in love and learning about this new way of life, etc., etc., etc. So that's what I mean when some films stick more closely to their premise. And that is often because the film is trying to either teach you something or pose a scenario that we should reflect on personally and seriously. That's what you get with Groundhog Day, and that's kind of what you get here in the drama.
Do you want to start over?
Again?
I really see this movie as more of a social experiment. I think the goal is more so to drop us, the audience, into this premise, this scenario, this what if, and it's asking us directly, what do we think? What would we do? And choosing this modern, challenging topic such as school shootings that we are all at least aware of and can try to engage with a little bit. And I don't think this one is specifically trying to teach us something specific, such as Groundhog's Day, that it's really trying to just teach you like be a good person and treat people kindly. But I do think that we are meant to explore it and learn something within ourselves. And that's not to say that premise is the moral or lesson that you learn necessarily. I just want to make sure I don't confuse that, because that is usually the theme of the film, which I would simply describe as like the thesis statement of the film. So just to kind of double down on story structure stuff here, you have the premise, which is the scenario. The characters are put in that scenario and make choices because of it. That's the plot. So you have the premise, characters, plot, and the overall message that you receive because of this story is typically the theme.
Oh.
And I'm kind of pointing out the specifics of the differences here because I want to single in on the premise being its strong suit. I don't know that it's the characters that are its strong suit, although I like the characters. I don't know that the plot is its strong suit, although I like the plot. And I don't know that it has like an overwhelmingly specific or gratifying theme either. So that's why I'm kind of going back to the premise is really the heart and soul of this movie. But is it enough to really carry this film and make it a really great film? To answer that question and to illustrate my takeaway from this film, I'm going to introduce a new concept that I'm going to start using, which is a metaphorical grade of a 7 out of 7. So this film to me is a 7 out of 7.
Sorry, what do you mean?
So this isn't a real grade. Like I don't think that it has a max a 7 quality or something. It's just a term that I like to use for films that have a very specific thing that they're trying to accomplish and they achieve it. So I think that for what it is, it's perfect. But what it is not as compelling on those other fronts, right? It doesn't have super memorable characters to me or an amazing plot that I want to revisit or, these really satisfying themes that stick with me over time. And none of those things are done bad. But because this is a social experiment film that is out to just kind of push this premise and just give us like a visual representation of this premise in the form of a movie, it does all of that stuff great. So that's why I give it a 7 out of 7. And the 7 is arbitrary. It could be any number that's not like 5 or 10 because that's the traditional, like rating scale. So you could say like 4 out of 4, 3 out of 3, 7 out of 7, 8 out of 8, whatever. So in a way, yes, this is a perfect movie. But it's just not one of my favorite movies. Will I watch it again? Maybe. And more so, I want to talk about it because the premise is so strong. I want to hear what other people have to say about it.
Am I sensing some nerves?
And I really don't want to discount the other elements of this film. I think that the acting was great. I think that the characters were strong. This was maybe my second favorite Zendaya performance after Challengers. And Robert Pattinson really felt like that guy. Like, I feel like his performance I bought him as a real guy. There were some great moments of tension, some thought-provoking conversations. I like the heart, the humanity. I love the ending of this film. It doesn't really get anything wrong, but for me personally, the premise is enough to answer the question of the thumbnail. It is enough to get me to watch the film, and I think other people should give it a watch. But I think it's not enough to have sort of a lasting cinematic impression on me.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was a bit strange as well.
So that is my take. What do you guys think? I know I only kind of scratched the surface of talking about what really happens in this movie. I didn't even get to mention this bit.
So disturbing.
I can't stand her. But how about you guys? Did you like Rachel? Were you at least intrigued by her? Did you have a different favorite character? Like and subscribe if you enjoyed our film talk today, and I'll see you in the next one.
You know what? Fuck this. We're leaving.
Rachel, really?